Hey guys, welcome back to the Detour podcast, a very special edition because it's the first time we've taken the show on the road. We are live from the Amy Gillett Foundation Giving Day here at Olderfleet in Collins Street, Melbourne. I think it's aptly named Olderfleet because Iffy is part of the Olderfleet, and we're going to see some vision of him getting on the spin bike. But we're joined, of course, four-time national road champion from Australia, John Trevorrow, and Dan Knipe, who's the CEO of the Amy Gillett Foundation. I always welcome you, Iffy, but welcome to Dan because it's a big day for the foundation, mate.
Yeah, huge day, and thanks so much for having me on, and just for your awesome podcast because you reach a lot of people and talk about a lot of really important cycling stuff, including safety work. But we're here in Collins Street, and it's our Giving Day, so we're really grateful to have you guys hosting from here. Dan, you've got balloons in the background. You've definitely got the little party spot. We're stuck in a room. It's right
where the food is. Right where the food is, the bar's right there. It was strategic, but I had to put John out the back. So, but you talked about giving. There's 6 hours to go. We've been pumping the link up for the detour, and that is CHARIDY.com/AGF/58089. If I think we're over $1,200 at the moment. I gave you a rev up to donate, and you delivered.
I did, but I didn't realise how the system works because they double the money. So I thought you put X amount in. So I thought, well, I better match that. But it turned out I doubled the amount that you put in. But anyway, I'll live with that. Don't tell Kate.
Well, part of the setup, it was very impressive. As soon as you walked in, there was spin bikes, spin classes. We got some vision of John as he walked in. Aptly, the music. We've got a bit of Eminem. This is the setup we had. By that stage, they were just under 200,000. I think we're over 200 now. And then the great band. John Trevorrow walks in. He had his Detour kit on. He meant business. And you never lose it, John, do you? You started red hot on the spin bike, but I think you sort of... you couldn't even get the toes in the wheel clip at the start. And then I think you hit a bit of a brick wall about 5 minutes in, Iffy.
No, that's not true, Dan. We had to do different resistance. You picking out the worst parts, of course you would. I thought I went really well. The ladies are a bit better than me on either side, but no, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think we had a... You're right, mate?
This is in the foyer of the new building by Mirvac, so 477 Collins Street. They've been amazing. They've got incredible facilities, but it's just nice to be back in the city after so many lockdowns and be able to do this sort of activation because it makes a big difference for our foundation.
So let's talk about the foundation, mate. So obviously we had the Meter Matters. That was a big campaign for 10 years and it became law across Australia. I think, unfortunately, Victoria were last to come to the party, which doesn't really make sense. But where's the foundation at the moment? What are some of the initiatives you've got in the works?
Yeah. And when I took over from the foundation, Victoria was the only state that hadn't done it, which is extremely frustrating. Our headquarters are here, and we obviously run Grand Fondo here. We were very excited to achieve that. We are doing some work around enforcement of that. So it's not that that's finished, done and dusted. We're looking at the UK, and they've done some great work in how they work with police. So we are doing that. But we're part of today's Giving Day was also announcing our next direction. And our campaign that we're looking at is Safe Roads for Safe Cycling. And what it means is a lot of the animosity between cyclists and cars is due to poor engineering. It's looking at safe bike lanes. Now, the bike lane could be a shoulder. Ideally, it's a separated bike lane, and also positive attitudes towards cyclists. So that's the next campaign you're going to see from us. We're really excited to get into this space. We've been testing a few things. We've been looking at what works in other countries. Today's Giving Day is how we fund our work. And most people don't realize we don't get any government funding. Most of our income previously came from events like Grand Fondo. So it's been incredibly difficult during all these lockdowns when we haven't had events to not only operate, but to look at we actually need to do more work. We're not doing enough. And we operate due to the generosity of people who give. And if you have donated, thank you so much. If you haven't, please jump on. The link below is to the Detours page. So we want you to donate to their subset. So it shows that they're doing really well. But we know cycling means a lot to a lot of people. We just want to make it safer. So please jump on and donate if you can.
That's the important part, Dan. Dan, one and Dan too, is that you haven't had the events to raise the funds, and you do a fantastic job. But we do need our Detour family to jump aboard. A lot of you have, but there's still time. And remember, because of the wonderful sponsors of the Amy Gillett Foundation, every dollar is being matched. So you give $10, $20, $30, then it's doubled. So which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and there are also a lot of different groups here today. You got to catch up with the guys from Wheel Women. So here's a grab with the crew earlier today.
So here we have the ladies from Wheel Women Cycling, or Real Women Cycling. So Tina. Yes. So tell me about it. So what's the?
Well, Wheel Women started because of my own journey into cycling, where I was really at a loss to think, this is not like when I used to ride a bike when I was a kid. And what happens if I get a flat tire? And all of these things that women stress out about, and riding on the road. And so that whole journey that I had into getting into cycling, I thought maybe women can learn about, my experience and actually get something from it. So that's how Wheel Women was born. So we run skills sessions, regular rides, and it's all about just being social, and there's no competition. It's any size, any shape, any age, any bike. We don't mind.
I love it. And of course, with the Amy Gillett Foundation, it's all about cycling safety. So what have you found are the biggest challenges for you ladies riding a bike?
I think probably the safety issue as far as being on the road is really a big thing, because there's a real fear factor involved with, the riders who come to us saying, I can't ride on the road. But actually it's about giving confidence and teaching some of those fundamental skills, so that when they get the fundamental skills, they become confident, and confident riders are safer riders.
Sensational. That was very good. We'll keep up the good work. Like you, I still do worry about having a puncture out
and getting the word out.
Yeah, all of that. Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Good help. No, it's great initiatives there, and it makes a good point, Dan. Confident riders as safe riders.
Yeah, and we've worked. Wonderful seeing the Wheel Women team here. We actually do training work with them, and they've helped us with some audits and safety work with different groups. And hearing you talk around confident riders, it's been interesting for me as a commuter cyclist, and I've been a commuter cyclist for years and years, and coming into the role with AGF, where a lot of the history is around sports cyclists and very confident riders. But when you step back and look at a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the roads and the way they're engineered, they're actually designed in a way that they scare everyone off except the most confident riders. And part of the reason why is a lot of these roads where bike lanes vanish, or they merge in a really dangerous way, or intersections aren't great, or suddenly you're going through a dooring zone. For a lot of people, they get on a bike and they see this and go, well, I don't want to do that. And, you talk about confident cyclists. Ones that are happy to do that are ones that, love it so much that they're willing to put up with this. And part of our next stage of work is to go, how can you actually engineer a bike lane so it goes through a dooring zone? It's not a case if someone's going to get hit, it's when someone's going to get hit. Exactly. What other transport user has to deal with huge sheets of metal coming into the path? How does that not an OHS risk? So it's really important, that confident rider, and learning the basics of it. But it's also really important that we've got bike lanes and paths for cyclists to ride on, that if you're not confident, you can still jump on. So that's the balance we're trying to find.
Yeah, exactly right, Dan. And, look, I've been excited about Amy Gillett Foundation right from the beginning, but especially what's been happening of late. I'm talking with you over the last couple of months. It's been fantastic to hear what your next plans are, which are, more than just a meter matters, about separate cycling lanes. But we're going to go down that track later. I know that we've got another fantastic guest who we're going to talk to shortly.
I've got one more, John. One more for Dan. Yep. I look at the overarching effects of what's going on in the world at the moment. Petrol prices, they're going to get to $2.50, they reckon, by the end of next week. Will you see a big influx of people taking up cycling simply because driving your car is becoming almost unaffordable.
Absolutely, and it's one of the silver linings we've seen out of COVID, where back in March 2020 we were saying there's going to be this huge jump because we knew people were going to avoid public transport, and to try and buy a bike during that period, it was nearly impossible. And we're going to see the same with petrol. But the one thing that we'll see is if there's safe bike lanes, that's what's going to get people on a bike, particularly people that choose, am I going to cycle to work or am I going to drive to work? So the petrol will be a factor, but they'll think about what's the bike lane like and is it safe for me? So I agree, and it is countries around the world doing an Australia's been slow party, but you're talking about the economics of it. Same if you want to look at environmental benefits, same if you want to look at mental health and physical health. But there's so many reasons people love cycling, but it just should be safe. And coming back to bike lanes, you have an amazing guest coming up after me, Cycling Royalty, and the work that she did for AGF has just been instrumental and made such a change. So it's really exciting for how we progress on that and that next stage.
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's all about keeping the cyclist and the motorist separated whenever you can. We're only 100 years behind the times in that most of Europe, Holland and Belgium and Scandinavia did it about 100 years ago. So we're getting there.
and we did, when I started AGF, we did a survey of the supporters, and the overwhelming majority drew from their cycle. And when I'm driving, I feel really anxious around cyclists when there's poorly engineered roads, because if forcing the bike in and out of my path, you just got to be distracted for a second and suddenly you're going to have a crash. So I shouldn't feel that anxiety as a driver, and the anxiety is 10 times worse when you're cycling because you're worried about getting injured. So that's what we're trying to solve.
Well, you're doing fantastic work, mate. And people, as we said, you've got to donate today and keep donating to the Amy Gillett Foundation because it's a fantastic cause. And as I said, you're doing great work, mate. So excited for all the initiatives you've got coming over the next chapter. Iffy, what I'm going to do is take a quick break because I need to fix your Wi-Fi, mate. And I've got a little trick. So we're going to have a quick drinks break. I'll come over and get your Wi-Fi sorted and we'll be back with more detour.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike. 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Are you dreaming of the ultimate cycling holiday? Mumu Cycling is the best in the business. Official tour operators for all Grand Tours and monuments, you will ride the best climbs, enjoy VIP access and race viewing, all hosted by some of the world's best pros, including 17-time Tour de France rider and Paris-Roubaix champion Stuart O'Grady. Start planning your ultimate holiday at www.mumucycling.com.
Thanks again to Bike Exchange and Mumu Cycling. Iffy, you're joined by Cycling Royalty, mate. And your wife.
I am. Tracy Gaudry, who many would know, who was the boss of she's CEO of the Amy Gillett Foundation for many years, from 2011 through 2015. But even more importantly, she used to work part-time in my bike shop when she was just a teenager. So let's go back a few years, Tracy.
Yeah, a few decades, and who's counting though?
But also, what about... Sorry, mate.
I said you survived. That's the main thing.
But I've been a great admirer of Tracy and watched her trajectory, both as a racing cyclist and a corporate guru. But back into your years, it must excite you for all the work you did in the early days with the Amy Gillett Foundation, Tracy, to see how they're stepping up now and starting to get some big changes happening.
Yeah. Thanks, John, Dan. We all play a role at a different point in time, don't we, in anything? And what brings us all together is our passion for outdoors, for bike riding, for freedom, for what it brings to our well-being, and most importantly, for why we're here today. And every day is safety. And so my tenure was 5 years over that period of time. It was sort of one of the stepping stones of the foundation. And the time where we went from, moving the organisation to being well-meaning and well-intended to what's the impact we're going to have. Meter matters, many people part of that. You step off and look at the groundswell of support, legislation in every state now, and just an absolutely thriving Amy Gillett Foundation team, and building the awareness across the community. Days like today, huge, where it's not just the bike riders and not just the transport industry aficionados, it's all the population.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you've had a lot of roles in cycling. You're still very involved with the UCI. You're on the Oceania board. You were the vice president of the actual UCI at one stage. And it must excite you to watch how women's cycling has really been accepted and grown, especially in the last 3 years.
Oh, it's special. There's no other way other than your heart's pumping and get very emotional. Having had a sporting career in cycling and working in a bike shop, there's everything we do. There's so many people and parts of systems that help us. Racing in a races in the mid to late 90s, and saying, gee, it's got to get better than this. 20 years later, there's now a women's world tour fully broadcast on television. There are bona fide women's contracts where women are protected as athletes to compete, broadcast around the world. And now we have the Women's Tour de France properly on the map. The viewership of women's cycling as athletes and the spectacle is rising, and in many events higher than men. That's not competition, but it's a benchmark. And for the first time, women can take their place as true athletes and true champions for the sport. Fantastic.
Yeah. So look, we Dan and I are going to the Tour de France, and I'm staying on for the Women's Tour de France, which will be sensational. We'll be doing detours every day from that. But let's go back to the 90s. You rode what was then the Women's Tour de France back in, I think, 95, 96 and 98. And they were full on, 16 days of racing, one rest day, up through the Alps, Paris-Roubaix stages. Take us back to your memories of that time.
So the event was called Le Tour de France Féminine. And, unfortunately, politics and money and trademarks get in the way of what's a great thing. 16 days, 15 days of racing, that's only 4 days shy of the Tour de France, or 5 days shy. 160k stages, finishing in Roubaix Velodrome with 10 pavé sectors, climbing Mont Ventoux, racing up Alpe d'Huez, and finishing the women's tour on the Champs-Élysées. So why did it take 15, 20 years to say it can be done? It has been done. Athletes are capable human beings, but most importantly, there's embracing of whether your gender or your nationality or background. We're embracing sport, we're embracing participation, and it is going to be a cracker. I'm really jealous that you're going to, jealous of you, but so proud that you're going to be there supporting the race, and the broadcast is going to be spectacular.
It will be spectacular. You know what? One of the things that excited me most last year was the Women's Paris-Roubaix. Not just the fact that it happened, and it was a fantastic race. But the actual media got excited about it. I reckon there was more publicity leading up to the women's para bathing than what's the men.
Yeah, I was more excited for the women's edition. And I think the key is that media support. And people were up in arms that they only showed the last 50Ks because, for a lot of the season, it's better racing to watch. You look at the Strada Bianca from the weekend, the women's edition, no one knew who was going to win until right at the end, whereas the men's, Pogacar, he's ruined it for everyone, but just as a spectacle. So, if they're going to do these races, they need to give them the full support because the racing, this isn't a charity. It's better to watch most of the time.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. It's been fantastic. So I know you've got some time constraints here, Tracy. So what could you say out there to our detour listeners to encourage them to open up their wallet and give to this amazing charity? And today is the day, because no matter what you give tomorrow, it's not as good as today because it's going to be
and the
double.
sponsors will match it. So come on, today's the day.
So there's a few financial drivers. Every donation is tax deductible. So whatever you donate, there's a tax deduction back to you. The second thing is whatever you donate is doubled. So there's 4 times the value. Let's just do the math. It's pretty darned obvious. The next thing is the foundation was born in the name of Amy Gillett as a result of a tragedy which never happened. Those tragedies are happening every day around the world, and they're continuing to happen in Australia at about one a week. And that's a portion of the number of cycling incidences. There's been a lot of change already. There are hundreds of thousands more people riding bikes in Australia, particularly after COVID, particularly with petrol prices going up, and particularly with the health and wellness being a part of our society. So if there's a time to say this is a groundswell for us now, let's invest a tiny bit in our future. Today is the day. I rode my bike here on purpose because it's today, but on purpose because getting behind a wheel of a car isn't something I like to do much anymore. Let's all do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks heaps.
Well, one last thing for me, Tracy, is it feels like there needs to be a cultural shift for people to get this, particularly at council level. But as you said, with the influx of people wanting to ride bikes, it is becoming so expensive to drive the car. Do you think that will naturally happen over time? And the more that the Amy Gillett Foundation highlights councils that are doing the right thing and showing examples of where it's working, because the tourism dollars alone, if there are councils and areas that are promoting safe cycling, well, these cyclists spend money as well. So where are you going to holiday? You're going to go to areas where you feel safe and they do it properly.
Yeah, there's the work of the councils. I'm working with Bringbank City Council at the moment on a new venue that they have. The other thing is riding the way, walking the talk. We want to show leaders in all industries and all sectors riding bikes to work, saying it's cool and it's fine to ride to work. Gone are the days of the suit and tie and all the, the fluffy stuff that goes with that. We've been working from home for 2 years. If we're coming out to meet and greet, let's get on our bike and get there. Let's actually live that lifestyle that working from home taught us, that flexibility is king. Yep. So let's actually use that change. And when you ride your bike to work, tell someone that's what you did.
Yep.
Okay. Simple as that. Walking the talk.
Yeah,
great
stuff. This building here, this old, what did you call it, the old farts building, Olderfleet. But when I went downstairs after my very, very exhausting go on the stationary bike to have a shower. But the setup here is amazing.
It's incredible.
Huge bike room where all the bikes hanging up, showers, fantastic. And that's happening more and more in the city. So it's smart.
And the more parents with children go riding with their kids, encourage their kids to ride to school, and champion the fact that a safe environment, the most important ingredients in our lives are our children if you're a parent, and raising the next generation. We would never, ever want to bring harm to our children. Think about them first, encourage them to get out. That will help everyone around you recognise how important it is to be safe on the road.
Fantastic stuff, Tracy. And it's great to see you in the flesh because, as you said, the last 2 years we've been doing everything through Zoom and online calls, but it's great to get back amongst and get back into the city for sure.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Now, Iffy, you got other special guests lined up, Johnny?
We have. We've got some of the A team from the Amy Gillett Foundation, so their policy crews. I think they're on their way in. Send them in. So I'll introduce them as they come in.
Well, to fill the gap, we can talk about Tirreno quickly overnight. Caleb Ewan, fantastic win. We had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He's looking pretty primed for Milan San Remo, Iffy.
Yes, it was a very good win too. He was super fast, especially weaving his way through that bunch because it was a very hectic finale. But he was great, and I really believe that he can win Milan San Remo. He showed he's capable of winning it. He ran second in the damn thing twice, and probably both times should have won. So I know it's his major, that and the World Championships in Wollongong are his major challenges or major targets.
He's got the tattoo sleeves, I've noticed. I didn't know he had the tats. They must be new, Johnny.
Yeah, I think they've been there for a while, but yeah. Maybe you watched him in the winter race when he had long sleeves on.
Well, he goes that quick. It's just a blur, mate.
Exactly.
So who have you got, Stewie?
Okay, yes, we've got Stuart Alfred here, who's the head of policy for the Amy Gillett Foundation. I was having a good chat with Stuart before, and he's got a lot of things going for him, but he's a Valley boy. He's a Gippsland boy.
That's right.
Like you and I, Dan. So there you go.
The Gippsland edition of the potty today. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So, but all good. So, Stewie, congratulations on all the work you've been doing. It's going so well today. I was disappointed that you went on the stationary bike with me, but you obviously do a bit of cycling yourself. But tell us a little bit about, firstly today and how it all come about.
Yeah, today's a big day for AGF. We try to do a lot with a really small team. And it's through the fundraising that Giving Day gives us that we can really scale up our impact. So my team, we're very lucky to have a bunch of really smart people that help us out with research, policy work, doing submissions into government inquiries. At the moment, we're talking to the federal politicians about the election that's coming up. Really trying to articulate what they can do for cycling safety, how they can make a difference. All of the support that comes through today enables all that work, really.
Now, one thing I'll say, I went to a session, like a brainstorming session a couple of months ago, and one of the things that stood out is you were talking about some of the policies they're doing over in places like the UK, and there was an example that you gave about the effect of education on truck drivers and the statistics on that can give the listeners a little bit of an insight into what they're doing over in places like the UK with truck drivers.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to say it's starting to take off here as well, Dan. This is we've got a program which is called Sharing Roads Safely. It's trying to upskill truck drivers in exactly what it's like to be on the road as a bike rider. So to give the driver that perspective. And there's all different parts of it, trying to kit out trucks so that they've got the railings that stop people getting sucked under the wheels, cameras in the right places, all of that sort of thing. So we're lucky to be able to learn a lot from places like London, where they've had huge construction going on for many years, and now we've got projects like here in Melbourne with the Melbourne Metro Tunnel. Obviously, trucks running around all over the central city where there are the most bike riders, and just having those trucks and drivers sort of equipped with a bit more knowledge and a bit more smarts makes them a lot more safer. So, that's a really, really strong project.
Actually, you're touching on that. It reminded me of something. I mean, at the moment, with so much roadworks going on around the city of Melbourne, that the normal paths that you would take to ride from A to B are suddenly changing. Because of these roadworks, you think you've got your safe little lane on the side, and suddenly that disappears because of roadworks. So people have to really evaluate their route from A to B at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of always have had to do that, but disruption caused by construction is it's a big deal. So. Luckily, the kind of policies around that stuff are starting to change, which is great.
Now, the one thing that I'm really excited about, and I'm talking with you earlier and also Dan over the last couple of months, is part of what the Amy Gillett Foundation is challenging now to talking with councils and the government about, the completely separate separating the vehicles and the cyclists. I mean, it's been great, the whole metre and a half matters over the last few years. But the next challenge is to looking at our cities and small towns of designing pathways, roads where it separates the vehicle and the bicycle.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of it will be a huge focus for AGF going forward. We've talked a lot over the last decade about behaviour and that, giving a cyclist a metre, that's a behaviour change. The infrastructure is the piece that we can really make some gains on, whether it's a protected bike lane or a sealed shoulder that's much more generous than a lot of shoulders out there, especially in regional areas. Intersections that are designed properly, roundabouts that actually cater for people on bikes.
Roundabouts.
Right.
There's a challenge at the moment, aren't they? Most of them.
Huge challenge. But luckily, again, there's precedent overseas. And here in Melbourne, we're lucky enough to have a couple of intersections on Moray Street, just a few blocks away, that do protect people on bikes. They take you into your own space, so you're out of the way of turning vehicles. And, that will be a real focus for us, and that's what we're speaking to government about. Trying to not only upskill some of the practitioners that are drawing up these designs, but also having a think about the standards and do the standards reflect best practice. And we're pretty sure they don't at the moment, so there's a lot more work that needs to happen.
Have you been able to see the overall effect of the metre and a metre half matters campaign over sort of a 10-year period? Can you quantify, has it had a reduction in these sort of accidents?
Yeah, great question. It's something that we need to keep monitoring. The rule came in Victoria last year, so we can't do that, especially here, we can't do that. But the sort of lessons from elsewhere are that, yes, there is a behaviour change observed. After the rule comes in, there is a much greater awareness of people on bikes, which is the whole point. We've got a couple of projects underway at the moment, which are really trying to dig deeper on some of the crash statistics, just to make sure that we are seeing that kind of longitudinal change. There's so much more that needs to be done there. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, mate. So we're going to keep this moving forward. We've got another couple of guests about to come and join us. So I think you might have a little bit of one of the other events to pop up, and we'll.
Yes, Paris-Nice. We feel it. The transition with the guests. We can talk about another race happening at the moment, Paris-Nice, and it was Jumbo Visma dominant again. They went 1, 2, 3 with Walt Van Aert winning. And then we had Primoz Roglic in second and the Aussie Rowan Dennis in third. But Iffy, you were obviously excited by Simon Yates because he ran fifth, only 11 seconds behind the hitters. And I think at one point he had the fastest time. But this is all preparing for the Giro, mate. And you are still dead set he's going to win it.
Well, that he can win it. He is my favourite for sure. And look, it was exciting to be only 11 seconds behind the likes of Van Aert and Roglic and Rowan Dennis, who got 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3 again for the Jumbo Visma guys. So 1, 2, 3 yesterday, 1, 2, 3 today. But that was a sensational ride. Matter of fact, the first part of it, which is the flat part, it was actually the fastest, Simon Yates, which is not what you would expect from him. So he's obviously done a lot of work in the off season on his time trialing, because that is the best time trial he has ever done. Remembering, he was a world champion as a youngster on the track. People don't remember that. I think he won the points race as a youngster after riding the Bay Creek.
Yeah, there you go. Now, Johnny, as we've told the listeners that we're live from the Amy Gillett Giving Day, and you've got a couple more guests.
We have, as a part of the policy team at the Amy Gillett Foundation. So we've got Antonia, Gossash.
Yeah, Gassas.
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
And
You're
Jennifer
close.
Rivera Gonzalez.
Yes, that's it.
Perfect. A bit of a Colombian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go. Well, because we have a lot of Colombians involved in science.
Yeah, Esteban Chavez.
That's the bunch over there.
Yeah, that's it.
Rigo.
Yeah, that's right.
So, ladies, tell us a little bit about your role with the foundation.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we're a continuation of what's been a growing policy team at AGF. I'm the policy coordinator. Here, I'll get in shot.
I'll move this around.
Yeah, there we go.
Cut me out. That's easy.
I'm the policy coordinator at the moment. I started at the foundation last year. I was interning as part of my Masters of Public Policy and Management. I got connected with the foundation just because I wanted to do some advocacy work, and I thought the work that they were doing was really proactive, really inspiring. I was seeing all the Media Matters campaigning going on in Victoria, so I reached out, got involved, and I haven't left since. And it's been incredible to see all the opportunities for change, I guess, from the policy perspective. And so we do a lot of work with submissions to government and trying to coordinate between academics, the public, and the policymakers, and trying to make it like an effective triangle to try and get the kind of change that's needed. Yeah.
And I am the research lead at AGF. I started, I would say, around 8 months ago. And my passion is bringing research to reality, to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
If it's published as an academic paper, it's not good enough. It should really be changing lives. It should be the way we design our infrastructure. It should be what really gives evidence to our policy. And of course, working with Antonia and Stu, we really bring research, whatever is recent from different countries around the world. We bring it, and that's what we are basing all of our policies on. That's what's making it real.
Yeah.
I said so. Dan, you and I need to sit down with these ladies and learn a few tricks from them about the research side of things.
Yeah. You're sensational with burying your head in the books, John. Let's be honest. But I want to ask you, Antonia, do you find that for this role, you're going to need a lot of passion, because there's going to be a lot of pushbacks, and you would have found that already, but it's the passion that gives you that drive to almost say, no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to accept complacency. These things need to change, and I'm not going to stop.
Definitely. And this year in particular, with the federal election coming up, so much of what we're doing is getting out there and trying to talk to key change makers, whether that's in the policy space, local, state, federal. We're just talking to a lot of people, and we get really different reception depending on who we're talking to. And sometimes you just feel like the message is so clear and it's not being well received because people have barriers up. People have, prejudices and things they bring to the table, that the biggest challenge becomes breaking down misinformation, or breaking down anyone who hasn't been on a bike. Maybe their perception of the need for change is a bit, it's different to how we see the problem. And so it's for us, it's a lot of connecting the dots with other challenges when it comes to politicians. So if you're worried about the climate, perfect, we've got a solution for you. If you're worried about equity and access to transport and having more equal societies, perfect, we've got an answer for you. Cycling is at the heart of a lot of bigger issues that politicians are busy trying to solve. And so that's where, if it's not the safety angle that's good enough for them, which is a shame, it should be, but sometimes it's not, there's lots of ways to sort of play with the narrative and show how cycling as a simple, cost-effective solution can really, be at the heart of whatever problem you're grappling with.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a survey recently where they were talking about bringing in a cycling lane down a main street in a country town. And straight away when it was mentioned, the local shopkeepers were jumping up and down. But when it was shown by taking a car park away and putting bike parking there, how much increased that business, suddenly, those shopkeepers, wow, they got on board. So that needs to be shown early in the negotiations, not later.
Exactly. And it's all about how you package the message. You can come at it from an economics perspective, a health perspective, and that can really help the audience understand what the message we're trying to pitch is.
But what's excited me, talking with Stuart before and listening to you ladies, is you guys are working together and putting a package to the government,
Mm-hmm.
which is not like a lot of people say, you need to do this, because
That's
you're
right.
actually going to them with a package that, look, let us help you do this. And that makes a difference, because they're happy. At the moment, they're thinking about their the next election, of course. But if you can come to them with a way of doing this where it's not all about them.
Yeah, help
Then
us
you're
help
gonna get
you,
one.
you
Yeah,
know,
let us help
basically,
you.
and
Yeah.
help us do more with the resources you've got. Because there's a lot of money floating around, a lot of opportunity and missed opportunity as well to have better impact.
Well, I heard a stat. There was like 10.2 million cyclists in Australia, yeah? Or it's some astronomical figure.
Yeah.
So if they feel like they can win that, then surely they're going to come to the party. But as you say, it's not
Exactly.
that simple. It's not that simple. And I think another big frustration would be a lot of the policies that you're trying to implement. If you look at the end of the funnel, what are you trying to do? Trying to save lives, trying to make it safer, trying to get people fit and healthy. So, I mean, banging your head against the wall when it's so black and white to most people, and trying to change that perception that these people that are cycling, that are getting knocked off their bikes, their husbands, fathers, mothers, daughters, that they're people, and changing that perception that they're not robots. That was one thing that was sort of talked about a couple of months ago when they did the whip, is that this perception that a cyclist is just a middle-aged man in Lycra, and it's like this sort of object of, when people are having a bad week at work, get off the road, all this sort of stuff. I think those barriers, until they sort of get completely broken down and people see them, in a different light, like it is a person, that would hopefully have an effect. But, fantastic work you guys are doing across the board. And I think it's a great insight into all the moving parts into the foundation. When you hear about the Amy Gillett Foundation, it is just a collective of people all working together, trying to change, for the better, to make things safer, as they said with the new campaign. Iffy.
Exactly right. So I'd just like to say, now this is your opportunity, or Detour fans out there, never going to get a bit of chance. We're talking about cycling safety. We're all riding the roads. We know the challenges are there. Amy Gillett Foundation is on the ball as to the next step, but they need help. So jump on board, www.charity.com/AGF/58089. And that gets you onto the Detour section, but it doesn't matter which section you use. Let's raise the dollars, because as of today, every dollar you put in will be matched by the wonderful supporters of the Amy Gillett Foundation. So jump on board.
Fantastic stuff. Well, thanks for joining us on the Detour, guys, and good luck with all your work. No worries.
Thank you to anyone who donates today as well. It really means the world and makes all the difference for us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, looking at the total now, John, they have a goal of 280,000. I'm just looking at the total, $209,510.
Oh, we're getting there.
They're getting there. And as you said, the corporate support has been fantastic. And you're about to line up another guest, Iffy.
I don't even know what I've got yet.
Hi, Peter Moran.
Okay, Peter.
Peter Moran.
You've jumped. Oh,
legal.
You're in the right order.
Yeah, that's right. So, Peter,
sorry, mate. Yep.
I was going to say, Peter's from, as you said, Peer Legal, and massive support of the foundation. Just give us a bit of an insight into how you get involved with Amy Gillett, Peter.
Look, I'm a keen cyclist, and I've done Fondo quite a few times, and I've, like any cyclist, thought a bit about safety, but never really done anything about it, the cycling safety. And then a friend of mine recently, his dad was just really badly injured in a bike incident, and I just felt like it needed something to be done. It was just bad road design that caused it. I thought like that's something we should fix. How do we fix it? So we both came along. And in fact, Dan, I think we met you at a dinner, and I just Dan Knight was there and talking about the work of AGF. And I thought this is something we can do, right? This just needs people to get stuff done. From there, I've just really tried to get involved and support the work that the Amy Gillett Foundation is doing, and it's amazing. It's fantastic. Today's been a great day. It's been fantastic to see all these people getting engaged with cycling and the Amy Gillett Foundation.
Yeah, I'm only disappointed in one thing today, actually, and Dan Jones is one who disappointed me. I should have expected it. I did.
Let me play that video again, John.
Half an
Careful.
hour. No, not at all.
Careful.
Half an hour, and I did. Yeah, I thought I did a pretty good job. He picked all the worst parts.
You did.
And yeah, you did it well.
Well, you were doing some spinning before, weren't you?
Yeah.
I got put on a spin bike, which I haven't done for a while, and I have to say I'm carrying a little bit of COVID weight. They put me next to Mitch Docker. The photos didn't come up that well, I have to say.
Yeah. But Pete, you touched on a good point before. When you're connected through an incident where someone's been severely injured on the bike, it must invoke so much passion for change. And we were just talking earlier, the frustrations when councils don't get it, when essentially you're trying to make the roads safer. And, they're saying one person is dying a week on the roads. It's just too much.
Yeah, and it's just, like I said, I've thought about it. I thought I need to write a letter to the council. I need to do something, and I never really have. And it's because it's actually not that easy. There's so many moving parts, and that's why something like Amy Gillett helped bring it all together. It just needs an organisation that can just drive change, in a whole heap of different ways.
Look, I think the Amy Gillett Foundation have done an absolutely amazing job over quite a few years. But I think this next chapter is the most important because, whenever I give advice to people getting on to start riding a bike, they ask me, what's the best thing you can tell me about cycling safety? And I said, pick the road with a shoulder. Because if, a lot of people think if it's a quiet country road, it's okay. But it's not. If there's no shoulder, if you have to rely on cars going around you, sooner or later, one won't. That's just the rules of average. So pick a road with a shoulder. And you know what? You can't always do that.
That's part of the problem, though, right? So I commute to the city from time to time, and I pick a very deliberate route, and it's about a 30-minute ride. 25 minutes of that ride is perfectly safe. I'm in a bike lane, or I'm going to protect it. I'm actually on a bike path. 5 minutes is frightening. And I can't do anything about that 5 minutes. No matter which route I pick, there's 5 minutes that I'm going to be in sort of dangerous situations. And so the problem, like that shoulder scenario, when I ride out on country roads, there's, 90% shoulders. It's the 10% when the shoulder disappears that you're forced onto the laneway. That's the problem. It's not the 90% of shoulders.
You've got to be aware, don't you? You've got to be listening, and really be ready to jump off onto that bit of dirt, which you don't want to do, but sometimes you just got to do it. I got to say, I don't know whether my early days, training when I was actually racing, I used to have a go at any of my mates who used to ride with the earphones, and I said, no, you've got to be able to listen to the traffic, and there's something about you've experienced. You just know that it's coming too close. I've jumped off the road a couple of times and the car's whooshed past really close. If I hadn't have jumped off the road, I would have got hit. And something about listening and being aware, definitely works. But what Amy Gillett Foundation is working on, this next step, is about picking, working with councils to pick roads, certain areas where you can keep the cyclist and the motorist apart.
And you make a really good point there, that it actually takes two to tango. Like cyclists need to take a level of responsibility too and be aware, and you can see some dangerous riding around that, irritates motorists for good reason. But I think what Amy Gillett's trying to do is it shouldn't be that a momentary lapse of concentration as a driver can result in a death. Like roads shouldn't be designed that way. It shouldn't be that simple that you just don't concentrate for a few seconds and that's it. So I think I
was just going to say, Pete, what do you think is the biggest reasons why certain councils are reluctant to change to make their roads safer?
I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily reluctance, but I'm not sure that they necessarily understand the problem.
Education.
It's education. I reckon if you made some road engineers ride the roads and realise, because they'll go, oh, look, there's a bike lane there, you're fine. But what happens at the end of that bike lane when you get forced into the traffic? That's the problem. So I think in part it's just everyone being aware.
That's a good point to put there. We were just talking, Dan was just talking about in Britain when they did that education for the truck drivers. Well, education with the road engineers is a very good idea. And it's not joking. It's a crucial thing.
Well, the story I remember is they said that they were so affected by taking these truck drivers out for a ride on the roads, and they were so scared from having near misses that the reduction in accidents related to trucks was like 47% down or some huge number, because they get it. They get that these roads aren't safe because the drivers are not paying attention and they're seeing these people as robots, not as humans. And it's that connection once they get it. And as you said, that education, that make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Sensational.
Yeah.
So with peer legal, what are some of the other things that you're looking at? You work with the Amy Gillett Foundation. What's the, from your point of view, the biggest bit of information you can pass on?
Look, I guess part of what interests me and part of why we're in this building is there is a massive end of trip facility. I saw you in it before.
Yeah.
Clearly, in a big building like this in the city, Mirvac built this building because they think a lot of people are going to be riding to work. I want to ride to work. I'd like my team to ride to work. I want all of us to get to and from work safely.
Yeah.
And so if I want to encourage my team to be commuting and to be healthy and to be using that fabulous facility,
100 bikes down there today.
I want them to be safe.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah,
so I think it's not just something that we can say, please, Amy Gillett, go fix. I think, all of us can do something about it. All of us can participate, and all of us should see it as important. I mean, my kids ride bikes. I want them to be safe. I think there's lots that can be done.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, Peter. And to finish with that, my grandkids don't ride to school, the younger ones, where we all rode to school, but they're at Barwon Heads, and it's almost okay. There's just a couple of small roads. My daughter just says no, so they have to walk to school. They'd love to ride to school.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you're getting behind the foundation, Peter, and good luck with all the things that you've got coming up with Peer Legal as well, mate. If anyone needs legal work, head down to Peer Legal.
Thanks very much, Dan. Thanks very much.
No worries, mate. Take it, Peter. Iffy, how many more guests have you got, mate? We're ticking over 51 minutes.
We got Ashley. Ashley Marshall coming on. I think here she comes.
And as we said,
Ashley,
if you
how
want
are
to
you?
donate, get on board charity.com/AGF/58089. We're at $210,710 at the moment, so it's ticking along nicely at the moment.
With a red bullet.
That's right. And we've got Ashley, are you doing your PhD at the moment, or you've done it?
No, I'm doing it about 18 months in. Yeah.
And give us a bit of insight into what the PhD is on.
Okay, so I'll give you the title first and then I'll explain it. So it's titled Maximising Opportunities for Elite Women Athletes Who Suddenly Need to Transition into a Second Career Beyond Elite Sport. So
that's a long title.
It's a really long title. That's why I did have to make sure I got it right then. So there's 3 key elements. So it's about how national sporting organisations can support and assist their elite women athletes to transition into a second career, especially if their retirement from elite sport has happened quite suddenly. So whether there's been an injury or deselection or any number of other things, when their retirements has occurred earlier than they had really planned or expected it to.
That's amazing because that was actually the degree that Amy Gillett was. I think she'd just done it, or was in the middle of doing it.
She was in the planning stage of getting a PhD, undertaking a PhD with her. Sorry.
It happens all the time on this show. Don't stress.
Oh, it's me, but it wasn't me for a change.
I've never been on a podcast before. Sorry.
Don't worry.
Never been.
This is the best podcast, like, for entry level to get into the bigger stuff. So you start at the bottom and you work your way up. But that's fascinating. So where did the passion for that come from?
So I am a sport administrator. I've worked in sport and within sport for over 15 years now. I've worked at government level and also within national and state sporting organisations also. I do have a scholarship from both the Amy Gillett Foundation and Victoria University to undertake the PhD studies. So just that I obviously have a passion for improving and enhancing the environment, especially for women athletes. I think there's a lot of barriers for women within sport, not only just getting into sport, staying in sport, but also that transition out of sport as well. And as we're seeing further professionalisation of sport for women, that's great. Women are getting paid more. Pregnancy policies and things like that are being implemented and improved, but we also need to look at that transition out of sport and how to make that a little bit smoother for women athletes.
Yeah, that was two things that come to mind straight away for me. One, you touched on the professionalism of women's sport now, which is just starting to change. Still a long, long way behind the 8 ball. Whereas with the guy who's been a professional athlete, most times they've been fairly well paid. So at least they've got that little cushion, especially if they have an accident or an injury that puts them out. Whereas with the women athletes, they haven't got that most times. They're relying on family support. So that's changing, but it's still got a long way to go.
Yes, so it is changing. Yes, but there is a long way to go. Obviously, salaries in sport for women are certainly nowhere near as high as they are for men. But also there's other strategies and policies and procedures that hopefully will be able to assist women athletes within sport and transitioning out of sport.
We've spoken about this on the podcast a few times about one of the issues is once they either retire or they're forced out of the sport, they identify as an athlete. So they essentially lose their identity. Are you finding that in your research in women's sport, once that sort of career is done from a sports perspective, they're essentially lost?
So a lot of the literature has identified that as an issue for a lot of athletes when they do transition out of sport and trying to work out or transition into what their second career is beyond being an athlete. But what I've also found is that a lot of the literature, in fact, almost all of the literature has been conducted with participants that are men. So that's one of the important reasons of my research is it will be looking solely at women athletes and how they can be supported.
And I'm sure it's, even though part of your PhD is women who get injured, but it's not just that. It's probably almost the same as when they just retire anyway. Most athletes, I suppose even more so in the men's, haven't really prepared well for what they're going to do next. It's been a cyclist or a footballer or whatever, and it's all been easy. Suddenly there's a challenge of that next step.
Yeah, so again, the literature has shown that athletes that do prepare and plan for retirement do have, they find transition out of sport a little bit easier, and athletes that have a sudden transition by way of injury, deselection, any number of other things, they actually experience more of a crisis when they transition out of sport. So so I know NSO, National Sporting Organisations, shouldn't just refer to acronyms, do a lot of work in helping athletes to plan and prepare for their retirement and their transition into something else. But the research has found that sudden transition is a lot harder for many athletes to manage.
I know when I retired from cycling after an argument with a tree. I fell asleep at the wheel and hit a tree, and that decided that I was going to. But I wasn't ready to retire. I mean, I was about to make one of my many comebacks, but so then you suddenly get forced to do something else. You'll
have to do research on John. I think you'll uncover a few things that you could use as part of your papers. But it sounds like you're doing. It sounds like you're doing some fantastic work, Ash, and thanks for coming on the podcast. And, it's great that the Amy Gillett Foundation are getting behind your work as well, because it will hopefully have a big effect on some of these women athletes that you're talking about that will need that support post their careers. So we want to wish you all the best for that.
Yeah, and we'd love to talk to you again down the track when you finished it, and you sort of when you probably be on the board of the Amy Gillett Foundation. We'll talk about how it's all
I've done the next stage of with data collection, which I'm about to start very, very soon. So love to share the findings.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, yeah.
Thanks,
Great
Ashley.
stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Really
Ashley.
good.
We've got a couple of live comments. Iffy, Sandy Woolley, great work down in Iffy. Donation made. Come on, all. Very really, you get 2 for 1 deal like this. Rarely, yes.
Very
Correct.
true, Sandy. Yeah,
And Matt
very
Windsor
right.
says cycling safety advocacy with knowledge and passion will lead to results. I think he summed that up bang on. So as we said, it's been a fantastic day here at the Olderfleet. And keep donating, www.chidy.com/AGF/58089. Final update, Iffy, $212,310.
Wow.
They're trying to get 280 grand, and they're well on their way. And thanks to all the support from everyone that's donated for the Detour group. And if you don't, just donate. Doesn't matter if it goes to the Detour. Just get on the main site and get behind it.
Hang on.
And
We got one. We do have one last guest. This bloke used to ride a bike.
hang on. I was wrapping things up. We've got to keep it short, Phil.
Well, we're going to come in from everywhere.
How's it going, mate?
Good, mate. I just got a notification saying that my parking's about to expire. So we've got to keep this tight, buddy.
Okay, mate. Okay, good.
How are you, Phil? Good to see you still
Yeah.
fit, doing plenty of Ks, mate.
Yeah, well, I've just recently recovered from a bout of COVID, so I haven't been on the bike for like 3 or 4 weeks now.
Yeah, right.
Pretty sad.
Time to go. Let's go for a ride tomorrow.
Did they get you on the spin class earlier?
No, I logged on to some live Facebook stuff this morning and knew I shouldn't come in until later, until they were packing up. So here I am.
Mitch Docker was on earlier. He was going pretty quick. I was on just before, and I wasn't going that quick. I was going better than the vision you showed, Dan. But anyway, that's another story.
Wow, yeah.
But great to see you. Now, Phil, of course, is one of our greatest cyclists. Still, arguably our best ever road cyclist. I think maybe Cadell just edges him, but some great wins. And I remember. My last year racing in Europe was Phil's first, so watching in awe that year you got the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. But
you were my idol back then, mate. I was the young dog and you were the old dog.
yeah. Well,
but Phil, one thing I want to ask Phil, Iffy, is there's been a lot of chatter about where Australian cycling's at on the world level, and a cultural thing. And a lot, we were talking to Brad McGee and a few other guys, Benny Kirsten, saying there's a big push to get older riders or from the former eras to get involved with the current eras so that they invoke a bit more passion wearing the green and gold. Do you think that there's something there you can help out with, Phil?
Well, we're always available, But I mean, I've retired. Not just retired from racing, obviously, but retired from business life too. So now I'm just a man of leisure. So I'm always around, But those young blokes, the institutes are full of, they've got so many people around them, so many experts, mate.
Yeah. Look, the people talk about what was the change that got people in Australia back. Their interest into cycling. They talk about Cadell winning the Tour, but really, it was
Skippy.
Phil. It was Phil because when A1 was last year, and there wasn't 10 English-speaking guys in the whole European peloton. But when Phil suddenly appeared there and went so well in the Tour de France, over the next few years, you started to see more and more Australians have a bit of an interest. And I remember that great TV commercial you did for, I think it was for Tui's. It was fantastic. It was filmed during the Tour of Switzerland, but it was great stuff.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. We did that in mid-'80s. But I mean, SBS didn't start covering the tour. I think their first tour was about 91, I think. No.
I think it was.
91, maybe 90. And so I think it was... you mentioned it was me or Cadell or whatever, but I think it was really the television which gave us the exposure. And I went and won the stage that year, which you were there, of course. Then it's just kind of evolved, and what Mike Tomalaris and the crew and his personal passion for the sport, which has grown through the years, that's really what has driven the sport. I think it's become popular since then.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a shame though, because all those years that Phil was at the top of the world heat. I mean, he was number one cyclist in the world at one stage, and winning some of the biggest races in the world, finishing top 5 in the Tour de France, and was picked to win it on a couple of occasions. I remember Eddie Merckx saying to me that he should have been world champion that year. I think it was.
That's right.
When one of the handlers knocked you off in the feed zone, should have been a bit Iffy story.
Yeah.
But
Iffy, I've got an Iffy story. My car is going to get towed, mate.
From the time he turned pro, the only race he ever raced in Australia was the Bay Crits.
Okay, thanks, mate. That's awesome. Now, my car is going to get towed. You're obviously linked to the Amy Gillett Foundation. What can you tell the listeners before we wrap things up why they should donate, Phil?
Well, we always want to get home safely. Basically, is the message I'd like to push through. We all have a right for a spot on the road. It is a real privilege, but as a cyclist, we need some room, we need some space, we need some, we just need some respect, and you'll get that back. And it's not just the lycra-clad riders who do get a lot of heat on social media and talkback radio and stuff, but it's the kids, it's our kids, it's your kids, it's the grandkids. Everybody's afraid to get on their bike, and that's terrible, because you remember when you were a kid growing up down in Morwell, down Gippsland, or I live in the country now. There are some kids who ride, but it's filtered through to the country now. There's not many people that ride because they feel unsafe, and it's terrible. I think it's it's a disgrace that it's got to this point. And so for me, I can ride the bike, and I feel I possibly have advantage over a lot of people when they get on the bike, just because that's been my life. But still, I do get afraid in the traffic, and when I come to the city, and the heat that you get, the pressure, you can just feel it. And there's a lot of angry people out there, and there's no need to be angry.
Yeah, and everyone who rides a bike, virtually everyone, also drives a car. So we've got to share that. But you did right. But the Amy Gillett Foundation have been fantastic in what they've done, the message they've sent and built up over the years. But what they are working on now is really the next big step about, special bike lanes and working with councils and government. So it's an exciting time. So now's a chance. Jump on board, donate, and they'll double your money.
That's it. No better time than the giving day today. So get on board. Thanks for all your support. Final total, 213,650. They're almost at 280. I've got to go move the car. She's about to get towed. But thanks for being on the show, Phil. Thanks, Iffy. Thanks for all the guests. And thanks to the Amy Gillett Foundation for all the fantastic work. We'll see you again next Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. See you then. Cheers.
This